Hello, I'm Wayne DeBey, the Flower Man, and today I want to talk a little bit about prom. It's still cold weather, but prom's not very far off in the scheme of things, and I thought I'd like to show a couple of ideas for prom. Mainly what we do for prom for the young men and young women, we do corsages, mostly wrist corsages and boutonnieres. And I thought I'd show a few of the ideas. There's a lot of materials that we can work with to customize a corsage to help fit the young lady's particular gown. We can do things totally custom, and I'm not sure how this is going to show up against my red, but this is actually made as a necklace that we can put up around the neck and then glue blossoms on the different spots up and down the stem of it. And this could be done in any sort of color combination that we can come up with. So if you don't want a traditional wristlet, that might be an option. Another option for young ladies, perhaps we could do something to go in the hair. I won't model this, but this is an option that we could certainly put some floral elements in along with it, add some ribbon trails if you like that idea. Just another idea. Let's get started, and I'm going to work with a basic band. This is the basic elastic band, if you will, and it is the most economical way to go. I want to take a little bit of fresh greenery. I like to incorporate some fresh greens into corsages. They don't have to be all fresh greenery, but I do like the fact that you can have a little touch of fresh greenery along with the other product. One of the advents in the last 10 plus years has been gluing, which certainly is gives us a lot of flexibility over what we used to be able to do. And I think that it really does make the flowers hold longer. When you're gluing, you're actually sealing the stems of the blossoms, and in a way that we never could quite get with the old stem wrap tape. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue onto my platform. All of these little bracelet forms have some sort of platform. And then I'm also going to dab a little bit of glue on the back of my foliage. When you're doing this, especially with fresh materials, you want them to be warm, probably room temperature, and dry. If you have moisture, you can interfere with the adherence. It doesn't take very long. You can actually put it on and pull it off a little, and that will let it tack. Or maybe not. Maybe that didn't tack quite enough, so we'll try that again and see if we can get that to tack on and start to hold on there. I'm going to lay that there rather than do this on my material here. And I'm using Floral foliage. Floral foliage is a very hard foliage. It will hold up very, very well. It'll even dry and hold its shape, if not all of its color. Again, put a little bit of glue on there, let that tack for a moment or two. And then we get to the question of ribbon. And the young ladies come in and talk about corsages and wanting to match their dress. Well, probably we're not going to be able to perfectly match the dress. What we hope to do is to be able to coordinate with the dress, to be able to pick a color and accessory in that color family that will blend nicely with the dress. And realistically, you probably don't want it to be too very matching to start with. So I'm doing just a kind of a, it's not even symmetrical, a little asymmetrical start here. And I chose this ribbon. It is a fun little corsage ribbon, and the fun thing about this that we won't be able to see today is that this is glow-in-the-dark ribbon. So if this is out and charges up in the room light or in the sunlight for a little while, then when the lights go down, it does have a little phosphorescent glow, which is kind of unique and fun to have a little bit of glow in the flowers themselves. I'm going to make a basic bow. It doesn't have to be a real big piece. I'm going to do maybe 3 loops at the maximum. If I get done and decide it's not enough, I can always come back and add ribbon to it. That's not a problem to do. This is a little wider. This is a not quite a number 5, I don't believe, but it is a little wider ribbon. And so I will come in and I'll show you this when I get the bow made here in just a moment. It's not a full bow as you might think, and I have created a flat center because I want to be able to come in and glue into the center of this bow. I don't want to have to fight with a loop in the center. Got nice new scissors, and that certainly makes a big difference when you're working with ribbon. You don't want that pair of scissors that everybody in the store has been cutting wire with, because then you get really jaggedy edges and it's not a very pretty cut. So I sprung for a pair of new scissors, and I'm enjoying them for the moment until someone starts cutting wire with them. So I've got my greenery here, and I'm going to just extend a little bit over all of the leaves that I've glued on there. I'm going to come in, can give it a little blow, maybe just a little bit of blow on the foliage, the glue, and we'll go ahead and tuck that down into that glue. This is a point in time where you can pull it around a little bit if you want. Now we're going to look at some of the ideas of blossoms that I chose to do. This is kind of a stock blossom and kind of a fuchsia. I thought it might be a fun little addition to do with this, and it doesn't take a whole lot of it. Stock looks kind of fragile, and some people think it looks like it's wilty. It's kind of a crepey finish, but if it is fresh and it has been treated well, it will hold very well in this sort of application. So I'll put a little drop of glue on there. Again, I'm covering where I've cut my stem, so I'm sealing that blossom. Going to come here and do the same thing on this, trim my stem back very close, and add a little touch of glue. And come in on the other side. Now, got some other things that we might want to pull in. I brought out some little miniature carnations. One of the, certainly one of the traditional flowers that we've used in corsages for years and years. And again, very great life of the product in a corsage. Come here and put a little glue on that. I want a little bit of length to it, so I've left a little more length. I'm going to come in and tuck that under on that side. Come and take a look at some of these other buds. And I like to use a combination of an open blossom as well as the more closed bud. I want to have a little storytelling, if you will, that this is kind of the evolution of the blossom, that it starts out in this tight form and opens up. With this sort of body flowers, corsage work, that sort of thing, you don't really have time for the product to open and bloom out in the course of an evening. So you do want to use them also in that more open state. Come in, I'm going to put that on top on that side. And I can, with the carnation, I can just break this off. Put a little drop of glue on this side. Come in on this side as well. Maybe add another blossom or two coming out to the edge. And I brought out these pink leaves. I don't know, I'm not sure that I like them, although we certainly could add those in. I may play with that in a moment. May add a little touch of pink in there just to see what I think, if I like that lighter shade or not. And you want to kind of come around and look at it. And the beauty of doing this sort of work is that this is all in your hand, and you can actually sit and do this. You don't have to be up and moving over arrangements. Bigger arrangements, I find it very hard to be able to sit and actually do this sort of thing. So this is one time that a florist maybe has a chance to get off of our feet for a little bit and do a little sit-down work, which is very rare. Gonna come and tuck this in over here. Now let me reassess whether I think this adds anything or not to this little bouquet. And essentially this is a miniature bouquet. That is what we are creating here. I don't know that I need to put that in there, so I'm going to move on and not do that. I do like to put a little bit of accent flower in, and I might take a look at a couple of choices I brought out. I brought a little bit of the wax flower, and I think I like the look of the wax flower with this a little bit better than the traditional baby's breath. People want to know why corsages are a little more expensive of an item, and it really is about the time. If you have all your materials laid out and are very organized and don't have to stop and start, probably 15 minutes is moving through a corsage fairly rapidly. And if you want to do more, if you want to add more layers to it, then certainly you can easily put a half an hour or more into creating a corsage. And like everything else, it boils down to our labor is really what we have to sell. In most cases with about anything, it's our labor. Whether you go to the mechanic or to any of the trades of construction, it's all about the labor and the costs that are associated with that, in addition to, of course, the materials. These materials that I'm using in this are really fairly inexpensive, so it's not a high dollar cost to do that. I brought out some little spray roses, and I'll work with those here in a little bit as well. I think this was a wise choice to use the wax flower with this. I'm liking the harmony that's starting to come along with this a little bit better. I brought out a few little sequins, and really Prom is about glamour, and in general it's something with some sparkle and shine to it. So we've got a little bit of silver edge on the ribbon that will add some shine, and now we're going to take the little rhinestones, and these are a hot pink rhinestone. We're going to add those in, and that just again catches the light a little bit as the young lady dances and moves, and helps make that, create that special illusion for the night. You know, it's a coming of age, if you will. It's often the first time that young people really have that chance to dress up. It's the first time they've had something of this magnitude to go to, and it is a very special occasion for the young people. Kind of a fun thing for the folks too, to see the kids all dressed up and get those shots of them as they're headed off to prom. And I think I could keep on going, but I think that I've created a nice little corsage here. Could be longer, could be made to drape over the edge of the arm if you want to add tails on this side. Like I said earlier, I didn't do it all the way around because it's very easy to come in and add a little bit of that length on the other side. And in this case, I'm just going to twist my ribbon. I could wire it, but I don't know that I will need to do that. And add a little bit of that glue. Come in here and lift my blossoms and tuck that in. And there, we've made that a little more symmetrical for you. So that's one possible. The whole thing about Prom is that it's just 100 different ideas or more, thousands probably, hundreds is probably underwhelming estimate. And there are so many different things that you can do. I wanted to do a boutonniere, and I chose a little mini calla, and this one is called Picasso. It's white and it has a fun purple throat in it, and I like that particular one. See if I can grab my my stem wrap, and here's where I do a more traditional mechanics. I do wrap the stems mostly on the boutonnieres. Sometimes you can glue them, but I'm not as fond of gluing the basic stem on a boutonniere. One of the new things that we're seeing a lot and doing a lot with boutonnieres is that we have magnets that we can put on them, and it makes it very easy for someone to pin, if you will, a boutonniere. You don't have to worry about which way does the pin go, will I stick my date, all those things that come up. So I have this little purple feather I thought would be kind of a fun addition behind. We'll go ahead and put it in here. And I'm going to use a faux leaf behind this as well. I've got a fairly big one, and I've got, I'll maybe use a pair of those. It's all about coming in and putting them together and then stem wrapping. And when you stem wrap, you want to pull the tape, and that's something that you learn with time, is that you pull it, and this is a paper tape that has a wax embedded in it. So when you pull it, you stretch it a little bit, and that kind of breaks that wax, and then it will stick to itself very well. I'm going to come in on this side and do a little lip on the front of my boutonniere. And again, you want to do that stem wrap, you want to be very firm with it. If your stem wrap is loose, it won't adhere, and then your flowers will start to fall apart, and that won't be a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and trim this off a little. And I brought out a little bit of this kind of purple ribbon. I think they just call it purple. And again, this has got a little bit of glitter on the sheer part of it. So we'll do this, do it up, do a loop. We're seeing more and more ribbon used in boutonnieres, and I don't want to do, in my head, I don't want to do a full bow, but I want to do kind of a fun little addition with the ribbon. Got a little bit of tail here, and I'm going to come in. Old habits die hard. I don't know that you have to do this. A friend and I argued this many times. If you're going to tape that stem over on the top, do you need to do it underneath? And I still do it underneath just because that's the way I learned to do it, and it feels right, so that's the way I'm going to do it. you want to carry your color theme through here just a little bit more, then you can come in and put a little drop of the glue on the stem, give that just a moment to dry, and take this, and I like to do this. I'm just going to wrap this around that stem. So I think this helps create a more finished look. You don't have just the stem wrap, you've got a little ribbon wrap on it, and this just ties it all together. A little more professional finish, if you will. I'm going to come here and I'm just going to make a simple knot, pull this ribbon through on the back side. And I know that you're probably not catching a lot of this on camera. Hopefully if you watch and then afterwards, as we get done, you'll be able to see what it is I was doing with that. And here we go with the dreaded feathers again. See if I can cut it without getting it all fuzzed over me this time. I want to come here, I want to pull this apart just a little and go ahead and tuck that in to the center of that. I could go ahead and pull a little cluster of baby's breath. We'll just do that and do just a little touch of the stem wrap on the base. And come and glue. I did a touch of glue. So this really becomes kind of a combination of gluing and traditional mechanics of it. I could go on and on with that, but I think that this probably has about as many elements as the average young man is going to really feel comfortable in wearing. I've got really 3 different elements in addition to the flower, and that's putting quite a little in there. Although the young guys are getting more adventuresome as we go. So that's another idea. May have time to do one last little piece, and I thought I would do a couple of the sweetheart roses. And I want to do these, I'm going to do more boot style. We could certainly do these into a corsage as well. But I want to do a little bit of a boutonniere here. And I'm piercing the stem on both sides and then going to go ahead and tape down it. If I had a bigger, heavier rose, I probably would pierce it from both ways and then go ahead and pull the wire down and maybe even twist it underneath. But these are fairly light rose blossoms, and so I don't think that I need to do that in order to have the stability that I want. And I'm going to stack them a little. I like this. I don't like them bunched together. I like one, and I've chosen one that's a little smaller, following those basic rules that generally you want to do the smaller one up a little taller. And I thought that gray has been such a big color, especially for the young men. So maybe I would choose a little bit of this. It's called Silver Dollar Eucalyptus, and it gets the name because of roughly the dollar shape of the leaves of the foliage. And it is a good gray foliage to work with. And again, I'm just going to come in here, try to set that together, get my fingers to do what I want them to do. Well, that isn't quite what I thought, but part of it is the serendipitous nature of design. Sometimes when you're working on something and it goes together and you think, oh wow, I like that. So that's where we're headed with it, whether it really works out that way or not tonight. And I have this kind of salmon. I've got the gray, and I plucked some little blossoms of delphinium. This is the lighter blue delphinium. And I'm going to go ahead and tuck them in. And this, again, so far I'm not gluing anything. I'm doing very traditional style with my boutonniere. And I have 3 of the blossoms. Let me see how I'll get that to work. There we are. There we are. I think that works nicely. So that what I'm creating has the traditional element of the Sweetheart Rose, and this one is called Isle. It is a kind of a pinky salmon, and it varies from season to season. In the summer it will get a little more to the coral tone. These actually are fairly coral right now. Sometimes they're very soft pink, but this one is a little bit more to that corally tone. So, a couple of things I could do. This one is not staying quite where I want it to, so maybe I can take this and I can wire this leaf. And in order to do that, I'm going to take a light wire, a very thin gauge, and I'm going to bend it over the blade of my knife, come about halfway up, and on either side of the center spine of the foliage, I will pierce that, pull it down, and here's where I will wrap it a time or two, and then put a little bit of tape over that. And now what I can do is I can control the way that that particular leaf, that foliage, works. So I can come in up under here and finish that off very nicely. Makes a little little bottom edge to that boutonniere, if you will. And I think this could be a finished product. We certainly can go ahead and put a little bit of accent flower in it. This is works nicely. The little wax flower works nicely, but I think we probably could also pull more traditional baby's breath against it. If you wanted to be really wild and crazy, we've got these little daisies that have a center to them, and so maybe we'd come and put a daisy or two in the center of these just to add that little bit of sparkle for the guy. And I'm just going to wrap that around and let you take a look at that. Obviously, if I was doing this for a customer, we would have a much better finish on the stem of it, but this is just one way to add a little bit of color and texture to it. And there are 3 little corsages boutonnieres, and I think that's what I want to show you today. Like I said, prom is coming up. Think ahead. Young ladies, come in early and let us take a look at what it is that you're needing, and let us have a little moment to kind of envision and dream to help create flowers for that special day. I'm Wayne DeBey, AIFD, the Flower Man, and I thank you for watching.